India Mutual Fund. Wealth sets you free. Extra safe. Polycab Green Wire.
Countdown to Prime Minister's biggest US visit. Intimacy, investment, and India first. All eyes on the Biden-Modi meet. India has earned this high table. India's rise in a collapsing world. Modi, Biden to shape new reality. Namaste America. Big focus on India first.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to the United States of America on the invitation of US President Joe Biden has the potential to transform not just India-US relations, take it to the next level, but the way India and the US deal with the rest of the free world and checkmate an expansionist China. China is a threat to the entire free world. The United States realizes this. India knows this. The US now realizes India is the only powerful country in the world that can partner with the US to save the world from China's expansionism. Be it China's Belt and Road Initiative, China's debt trap diplomacy, or the Chinese wolf warriors post-COVID. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We'll get you the latest on this big story, but first, as always, the headlines. Massive controversy over film Adipurush. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur reacts to the controversy over offensive dialogues, says no one is allowed to hurt religious sentiments. The film's dialogue writer now claims a threat to his life seeks security. Gandhi Peace Prize for Geeta Press triggers a massive political showdown. Congress hits out, says it's like awarding Savarkar and Godse. Incessant rains trigger flood fury in West and East India. Several areas submerged in Rajasthan. 13 districts in Assam flooded. Heavy rains bring Chennai to a standstill. North India reels under severe heat wave. More than 100 people dead in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The temperature crosses 45 degrees. No end to Bengal blood politics. Leader of opposition Suvendu Adhikari moves Calcutta High Court over Panchayat poll violence. Governor opens peace room in Raj Bhavan to address public grievances. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been to the United States 6 times since 2014. But his 7th visit is being seen as a real game changer. A game changer for India, a game changer for the United States of America and the democratic free world attempting to checkmate an expansionist China. The US realizes China is a threat. India knows China is a threat. Other democracies are not strong enough to stand up to Chinese bullying tactics. So, from the GE-414F engines for India's fighter planes to Sea Guardian drones to high-end technology, India and the US are expected to do all they can to come closer as powerful democracies standing together against expansionist forces.
A 21-gun salute. State banquet. Congressional speech. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States promises to be high in form.
To you.
Symbolism
His Excellency.
aside, the Prime Minister's official state tour of the world's most powerful nation is going to be equally high in substance.
The second key component, which has been a very strong pillar of our relationship, has been strong trade and investment partnership. Whether you look at the quantum of bilateral trade touching close to $200 billion, or the strong flow of capital on both sides.
A visit that offers an opportunity to US to strengthen its economic and security cooperation with India. More so when the Biden administration seeks an Asian partner as a counter-influence to an increasingly assertive China.
China's grown its economy from about 5 trillion only 10 years ago to 18 trillion just in 10 years. Now, they've done some of that in very bad ways, and they've run up a lot of debt. But I think India's doing it the slow, methodical way that they need to by encouraging trade with that huge consumer base, as well as somebody who can produce a lot of things that are both technologically advanced as well as just production. I think we can pair with them in very good, beneficial ways to both countries.
India's economic system has changed for better in the past 9 years. Supply chains and industries better linked than before.
The second key component, which has been a very strong pillar of our relationship, has been strong trade and investment partnership. Whether you look at the quantum of bilateral trade touching close to $200 billion, or the strong flow of capital on both sides.
A more resilient industrial production also in place. India prepared to talk to the US from the position of strength during the upcoming visit, especially in the areas of critical and emerging technologies, high-powered computing and regulatory barriers coming in its way.
A number of the deliverables at that visit are not just bullet points on a page. They are fundamentally designed to remove those obstacles in defense trade, in high-tech trade, in investment in each of our countries, in taking away obstacles that have stood in the way of better collaboration among our scientists and researchers, in stimulating greater access for our students going both ways, for Americans coming to India, Indians coming to the United States.
On the plate is a rich yet balanced program. No heavy tilt towards one over the other. It is quite natural that when the India-US delegations would meet, the global impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict would definitely be one of the points of priority questions. With US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in China during his much-awaited trip to the Beijing this weekend. The atmosphere in Indo-Pacific region, regional security, India's fundamental strengths and the situation in the subcontinent likely to figure in discussions during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US starting next week.
This partnership is crucial for fostering peace, prosperity, and stability around the globe, especially in the Indo-Pacific region.
Both sides concretizing agreements. The official announcement is expected once pacts are finalized. With Geeta Mohan, Bureau Report, India Today.
One of India's core strengths is the Indian-American community. The 5 million strong, the 50 lakh strong Indian-American community is the glue that binds India and the United States together. Prime Minister Narendra Modi realizes that, and he's addressed the diaspora and harnessed that strength, be it at the Madison Square Garden in New York or the Howdy Modi event in Houston, Texas. The diaspora too is very excited about the Prime Minister's visit, and chants both of Vande Mataram and Vande America were heard in New York and in Washington, D.C. We bring you this ground report.
vibrant atmosphere. An atmosphere of anticipation and excitement fills the air. The Indian diaspora in the United States preparing to extend a resounding welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Joining hands in a powerful display of unity, banners and placards proudly proclaim their admiration for their leader in their adopted homeland. Prime Minister Modi scheduled to address the diaspora on June 23 at the prestigious Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
जिसके लिए इंडिया के दिल में आदर है, प्यार है, वही इंडिया को लीड कर सकता है. And Modi ji has that quality. Number one quality, he loves India. He does everything for India, not for anybody in particular.
We are here to welcome, along with the rest of our Indian American community, Modi ji.
At the diplomatic, strategic and economic levels, India and the United States ties to forge new avenues of collaboration.
The reason this evening is so important is our conviction that at the heart of the strategic relationship between our countries are economic ties. And under the leadership of President Biden and Prime Minister Modi and private sector leaders in this room tonight and beyond, it is growing stronger by the day.
There's innumerable reasons why India certainly matters, not just bilaterally between the two of our nations, but multilaterally on very many levels. And the President's looking forward very much to having Prime Minister Modi here to talk about all those issues and to advance and deepen that partnership and that friendship.
Prominent voices of foreign policy matters have described Prime Minister Modi's visit starting June 21 as a pivotal moment in the India-US relationship.
Welcome to Washington, D.C., Prime Minister Modi. The Prime Minister's state visit is a significant moment in the U.S.-India relationship. I have many fond memories of my visit to India in 2019. I hope Prime Minister Modi will have the same opportunities to experience all the richness of the United States during his visit.
India's arrival on the global stage a tangible reality. The upcoming visit of Prime Minister Modi to the United States poised to strengthen the existing ties between these two nations even further. Bureau Report, India Today.
After coming to power in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the United States in September. He addressed the United Nations. He met then US President Barack Obama. He also met the Indian American community at the Madison Square Garden. At that event, the Americans said Modi dazzled like a rock star. The crowds cheered every move of the Prime Minister. In 2019, he visited Houston, Texas. There were close to 50,000 Indian Americans, and this, according to the American media, was one of the biggest ever receptions that any world leader got in the United States of America. We bring you more on the Prime Minister's past visits to the US.
4 months after the 2014 landslide victory at the Lok Sabha polls, Narendra Damodar Das arrived at Uncle Sam's doorstep. The United States of America had till then refused a visa to the Chief Minister of Gujarat. But then, when the same person arrived as the Prime Minister of India, the US laid out a red carpet welcome. The combined hearts of the Indian diaspora seemed to burst with pride. At the Madison Square event, the politician Prime Minister dazzled like a genuine rock star, and the crowds swooned at his every move.
Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
After Madison Square, the Prime Minister enthralled surging crowds at the New York Central Park. Standing next to Hollywood star Hugh Jackman at the Global Citizen Festival, he connected with the youth with the line that till then had been synonymous only with the Star Wars movies.
May the force be with you.
And the newly minted Prime Minister of India had breakfast with the CEOs of global enterprises. Over a series of one-on-one meetings, Modi met the top bosses of financial biggies and made time to catch up with India-born corporate leaders based in the US. He invited investment from prominent CEOs and urged the Indian American community to take up a greater role in the development of India. The first 4-day trip to the USA was blitzkrieg in nature and impressive enough to change his image for years to come as the man who was going to build New India. Exactly a year later, the Prime Minister of India was back to reconnect and revive the ties made earlier. This time, he had 24 hours more to work on. The Prime Minister had a working dinner in which major Fortune 500 companies were present to deliberate on investment opportunities in India. Prime Minister Modi visited the West Coast, the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister after almost 33 years. Considered the home of startups, innovation and technology. He took part in town hall Q&A at the Facebook headquarters along with its CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
मैं बहुत गरीब परिवार से हूँ। आप जानते हैं मैं रेलवे स्टेशन पे चाय बेचता था। हमारे पिताजी तो रहे नहीं हैं। माता जी है 90 साल से भी ज़्यादा उम्र है। आज भी अपने सारे काम खुद करती हैं।
Prime Minister Modi also addressed a renewable energy roundtable at Stanford University. And then he interacted with the Indian community in San Jose. 6 months later, in his quick 2-day trip to US, the Prime Minister made time to catch up with scientists from the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. 3 months after that, came another 3-day trip in June 2016, when Prime Minister Modi addressed the 40th AGM of the US-India Business Council and met US business leaders. He exchanged views with US think tanks and attended a ceremony marking the return of Indian antiques. He laid wreaths at the tomb of the unknown soldier. He also laid a wreath at the Space Shuttle Columbia Memorial linked to the memory of Indian origin astronaut Kalpana Chawla. The year was 2019 and Narendra Modi had just led BJP to yet another historic victory in the Lok Sabha elections. Flush with the victory that had given him a resounding mandate. Prime Minister Modi resumed his US outreach with the iconic Howdy Modi event at Houston's NRG Stadium. The President of USA, Donald Trump, joined him in an unparalleled show of bromance. The Prime Minister of India replied with,
अब की बार ट्रम्प सरकार। Thank you.
And a victory lap with Trump at the last leg of the marquee event, with the diaspora growing hoarse, cheering for their favorite son of the soil. On the heels of the successful Howdy Modi event, the Prime Minister of India addressed the opening plenary of the Bloomberg Global Business Forum in New York. In each of his visits to the US, Prime Minister Modi has sought to impart new energy in the bilateral relationship between the US and India. He connected with the business community and the Indian diaspora. And he presented India defined by the contours of his own vision of a land brimming with opportunity. A nation that could be a reliable business partner, and a country that was friendly to the United States and all the businesses that it stood for.
India-US ties were transformed after the Kargil War of 1999, and they've been on an upswing ever since, be it the Clinton era or the Bush era or Donald Trump's presidency or the current presidency of Joe Biden. The United States realizes India is central to the new democratic world order. Prime Minister Narendra Modi kickstarts his US visit, this time leading the International Yoga Day celebrations at the UN headquarters in New York. India Today's news director Rahul Kanwal spoke exclusively to Ruchira Kamboj, India's permanent representative to the UN, on what to expect on the 21st of June and during this India-US summit. Listen in. I want to go across live to the UN headquarters at this moment. Joining us from there is India's permanent representative to the United Nations, one of the most renowned diplomats of the Indian Foreign Services at this moment. Ruchira Kamboj joins us on India Today. Ambassador Kamboj, thank you so much for your time, and it's great to have you with us on India Today as we count down to the big International Yoga Day celebrations at the United Nations. You're the one who's bringing this entire program together at the UN headquarters. Could you start by giving us a sense of the kind of preparations that are currently underway in New York at the UN headquarters for the big celebration of the International Yoga Day?
Well, thank you, Rahul. It's good to see you, and my greetings to all viewers in India. As to the question, let me say that the response is indeed overwhelming. We expect the international community at the UN to participate in the thousands, if I may say so. There are 193 countries, and we expect maximum participation. I would say the unique feature of this event is that while every year we celebrate yoga, this year, such a large participation from the international community at one place, and that too at the level of, opinion makers and influencers in their own right from different countries. This is quite unique. These are powerful signals and indicate two things. One, the popularity of yoga as Indian cultural heritage, and two, the standing of India as a country.
This could have been well done at Central Park or any other place in New York. Why have you picked the United Nations headquarters as the location for the celebration of the International Yoga Day? And what's the thinking behind bringing the Prime Minister to the United Nations headquarters for this particular program?
Well, as you know, this is a UN mandated day here. So let me step back a bit and let me take you back in recent history. You would recall that in December 2014, the General Assembly of the United Nations had adopted a resolution to declare 21 June as International Yoga Day with 177 co-sponsors upon Prime Minister Modi's initiation. So no other platform, I would say, offers such a full spectrum of all countries across the world, and the UN was therefore the best choice and sends the most powerful signal of yoga's acceptance and popularity.
Outside of this one International Yoga Day, are you seeing a general uptake in the kind of interest around yoga at the United Nations headquarters among member countries of the UN? Is this just symbolic, or is it actually something which is now gaining more interest than in the past?
Definitely the latter. I will say that since the declaration of International Yoga Day, the UN itself has created an International Yoga Day committee, which every year is a part of the Yoga Day celebrations at the United Nations. Then there are also yoga clubs in the UN, which are very popular and which have as its members the different member states of the United Nations. But I would say that the unique feature this year is the Prime Minister himself being a part of the celebrations, with members and countries not only represented at the highest levels, but in overwhelming numbers.
You know, there's so much being spoken about the United Nations and the kind of relevance it has at a time when there are so many global crises, and the UN hasn't been central to trying to solve some of the big problems of the day. Is this in some ways also suggestive to the extent that it is of India's interest in keeping the United Nations going as an active global concern in whatever form and shape possible at the moment?
Well, India is a committed multilateralist and, of course, as you know, a founder member of the United Nations. And while what you say is not untrue, the UN has its critics, but there is no other geopolitical platform which offers more return on your investment, given that we are able to touch the full spectrum of nation states here in one go.
Okay, and outside of all of this, have you been practicing some yoga as well? Is this something that you do, Ambassador, or is this something that you're just going to be doing for this particular day, or is it a part of what you've been doing of late?
No. I think I'm definitely going to be a part of International Yoga Day, and I do practice yoga like many other Indians, and I must say that it does make the difference.
Oh, fantastic. And we're looking forward to seeing you at the United Nations headquarters on International Yoga Day. Ambassador Kamboj, I know you have a very, very busy schedule. And from that very packed calendar, squeezing a few minutes for us, thank you very much. It means the world to us. All the best. And we hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you, Rahul. My pleasure. Thank you.
India Today's Rahul Kanwal, Geeta Mohan and Shweta Singh will be reporting live from New York and Washington DC, where we get you the latest on this India-US summit and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States of America. That is all I have for you on India First this evening. Coming up next is Business Today with Abha Bakaya.
He was a more liberal man. His vision was of a more secular Pakistan, not just for Muslims. He wanted a separate state for Muslims, but Pakistan was not meant to be only for Muslims. Whoever wanted to stay could stay. From there, the vision narrowed down since the army takeover, the influence of fundamentalists, extremists. You're now seeing a very parochial vision of Pakistan, where they're not looking at how Pakistan can play a larger role in the geopolitics, but have confined themselves to a few regional issues like Kashmir, India, Pakistan, terrorism, using terror as an instrument of state policy.
In our vision of Pakistan as a secular state has been eclipsed by the rise of radical Islamic party. But Pakistan is still, it's not like it has become a fundamentalist state yet, but there is certainly a struggle going on in Pakistan for the soul of Pakistan and what should be what Pakistan should be.
To create a nation's wealth is to create a pathway to development. And the destiny of Pakistan's 240 million people is dependent fully upon foreign currency to import essentials. Decades gone by, but there's still a greater outflow of foreign exchange than the other way around, bringing about the ruinous situation that Pakistan now finds itself in, with enough foreign currency for bare weeks of imports.
We are a net importer of oil. Most of our needs are met by the imported oil. Pakistan also now, for almost a decade, is now a net food importer as well. So it doesn't just like import. And I'm not really talking about non-essential food items. I'm talking about essential food items. So, it imports wheat, it imports onions, it imports potatoes, it imports cooking oil. That's again a big ticket item in our import bill.
Pakistan's dependency on imports has ballooned as a result. One major reason was the 2022 floods disaster that brought devastation to the complex terrains of the country. 1/3 of the country was underwater, as per satellite images. With the loss of human lives and livestock, 2 million acre worth of croplands were destroyed too. Floods cost Pakistan an additional $15 billion. That's roughly 4% of the country's GDP.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today TV. I'm Abha Bukaya. Here are the day's top stories. Wait for US visas extends to January 2025 as Prime Minister Modi readies for his historic visit to the US. BTTV speaks exclusively to envoys of the countries. US opens slots for students in July and August. Nifty flirts with its lifetime high but fails to breach the mark, falls 71 points on profit booking and weak global sentiment. Sensex down 216 points. Mid-caps and small caps continue their outperformance. Big worry for policymakers as a tardy monsoon delays kharif crop sowing. Land under cultivation down 57% on year. We speak to experts to find out how this will impact you. The sovereign gold bond scheme opens for subscription again. You can buy gold at 5,926 rupees per gram. Bullion expert tells whether subscribing to these bonds is a profitable deal for you or not. State Bank of India outlines the real impact of 2,000 rupee note withdrawal, says could boost GDP growth, push people to repay loans and give a major push to consumption. Even as Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for the US for his first ever state visit in just a few hours from now, he takes with him the baggage of Indians having to wait for years for a US visa. While there have been a lot of promises from both sides to reduce the waiting times, applicants for a US tourist visa still have to wait nearly 2 years in Mumbai. Things have improved a little for students, with the US Embassy opening some slots in July and August.
Visa wait times have been one of the biggest sticking points in Indo-US relations for the past 3 years. Ever since staff at the US Embassy and consulates in India was trimmed because of COVID-19, wait times for appointments have skyrocketed, earning the ire of tourists, students and businessmen alike. Currently, if you want a tourist visa for the US, you will have to wait till 12th of September 2024 for an appointment in Delhi. In Mumbai, the earliest appointment is available only after 589 days, that is on the 28th of January 2025. This puts India as a country with one of the longest waiting times for a tourist visa appointment. In Beijing, tourists have to wait for 140 days for an appointment, while in Istanbul, the waiting period is 342 days. even in Karachi, has a much lower waiting period. Applicants in Seoul has to wait just over 2 months. The issue is one of the biggest thorns in diplomatic relations between the US and India.
When it comes to the people-to-people, we're going to see, I think, some agreements to move forward on climate work. We're going to see agreements on education, and hopefully some good things that will connect our people with fewer wait times for folks who are looking to travel to the United States.
We asking for visas are the best friends of United States. So therefore, whatever can be done to facilitate that should be done. I believe that during this visit, a number of initiatives are definitely up for discussions and also for implementation. I do want to also take this opportunity to mention to you that there is a huge interest in US universities about collaborating and tying up with Indian institutions.
The pressure and the upcoming visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi seems to have had some impact on the US consular operations in India. The US Embassy last evening opened additional slots for students hoping to join the fall semester in US universities. Slots have been made available from mid-July to mid-August. US officials expect the number of Indian students moving to the US to reach a new high this year, up from the record-breaking 125,000 student visas issued last year, more than any other nationality.
I will say, with respect to visas, our consular teams have been making a huge push to process as many visa applications as possible in India, including in those visa categories that are key to the bilateral relationship. This is a top priority for our government. We know that there is more work that we can do, and we are working hard to do it.
It's not only the US visa which are sour grapes for Indian students. Even Schengen visa required for Europe is not easily available. Spain, Italy and Germany have no slots available, while Switzerland and France have slots end of this month. Tourists and students are hoping Prime Minister's visit to the US will bring them some relief in the waiting times. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Prime Minister Modi's trip to the US this week is heavy on optics, with him slated for a ceremonial welcome at the White House, a state dinner by the Bidens and a rare second address to the joint sitting of the US Congress. But the trip is heavy on substance as well. The Prime Minister is meeting some of the top CEOs of US industry, and the delegation is expected to clinch some very large deals, both in business and defense.
It is India's soft power at its loudest. Preparations are underway at the North Lawns of the United Nations headquarters in New York City for Prime Minister Modi's Asana diplomacy on International Yoga Day on 21st of June. The historic event is to be attended by hundreds, including UN Secretary General Kasaba Kurosi, and diplomats, ambassadors and representatives from nearly 180 countries. This demonstration of Indian soft power is just a precursor to 2 days of hard, bare-knuckles negotiations expected in Washington, D.C. The Prime Minister has a full itinerary. He will jump into action as soon as he reaches New York early morning on Wednesday. On the 21st, the Prime Minister will lead Yoga Day celebrations at New York, which will be followed by several engagements and departure for Washington, D.C. Next day, he will be felicitated at a ceremonial welcome at the White House, followed by bilateral talks with President Joe Biden. The evening will have the Bidens host a state dinner for the Indian Prime Minister. Modi will then get the singular honor of addressing a joint session of the US Congress a second time.
प्रधानमंत्री जो है अमेरिका के संसद पे भाषण देंगे। ये जॉइंट एड्रेस होता है कांग्रेस को। आज तक कोई भी भारत का प्रधानमंत्री इसको 2 बार उन्होंने संसद को संबोधित नहीं किया। यह पहली बार होगा और दुनिया में भी बहुत कम लोग हैं, जैसे विंस्टन चर्चिल हैं, नेल्सन मंडेला हैं। ऐसे ही माने गिने चुने लोग हैं जिन्होंने यूएस कांग्रेस को 2 बार संबोधित किया।
The show of solidarity between the two governments will continue, with the Prime Minister hosting a luncheon event on Friday jointly with US Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. What follows is some high-powered meetings with around 20 US CEOs who already do business in India or are keen to get a foothold in the Indian markets. The CEOs include Shantanu Narayan of Adobe Systems, Julie Sweet of Accenture, Ryan McHenry of Visa, as well as Michael Maybach of MasterCard, both reportedly keen on boarding the Indian digital payments superwagon, and James Quincy, the CEO of Coca-Cola.
हम जो है अपने हित से देखते हैं और रिश्तों की परिप्रेक्ष्य से देखते हैं, तो मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि इस विजिट से आप आउटकम देखेंगे, बहुत माने जबरदस्त आउटकम निकलेंगे, पर क्या निकलेंगे मैं अभी आपको बता नहीं सकता.
Some of the big outcomes which are already expected are an investment up to $2 billion by Micron Technologies, a crucial deal to buy 31 Predator drones, and a deal to allow General Electric to manufacture jet engines for Indian military aircraft within India. These engines will be used by the second iteration of the light combat aircraft, and the under development